never elaborated. Why hasn't he elaborated? Why? Because there's nothing there. There's nothing to elaborate on. He can turn around and say, although he shouldn't be able to, it should be criminal, it's slander, to say, oh, he absolutely committed a felony. He's saying this to hurt the guy's career and his reputation, to cost him financially, because think about it, if you impeach a president or you get somebody removed from an elected position and they lose their salary, you have affected them monetarily. It's slander and it's a crime. But he can say it all he wants. That doesn't mean it's true. Nadler says that this is not an exoneration. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And did you notice in the report, in the letter about the report, Attorney General Barr, A.G. Barr, says explicitly and unambiguously there was no evidence of collusion, but Mueller threw a bone in there for the Democrats to run with. He threw one to his buddies and said that he could not come to a conclusion on obstruction. And if you don't know where the obstruction bogus garbage comes from, the obstruction, accusation comes from he fired Comey to affect the investigation or to obstruct the investigation. Well, first of all, firing Comey had no effect whatsoever on the investigation. Trump's not an idiot. Trump has a ton of legal advisors and political advisors and pundits and experts on this and historical experts. And if firing Mueller or firing Comey would have actually affected the investigation, somebody would have said, no, hey, buddy, don't do that. That's not a good idea. And he would not have. But he did. And why could he? He could because, in Comey's own words, and actually when he said this, he wasn't speaking about his service under Obama. He was speaking about his service under Trump. He said, the FBI director serves at the pleasure of the president. And we know that. That's the truth. Firing Comey had no effect on the investigation. It didn't stop the investigation. It didn't change any of the players in the game at all. Do you think that Comey was there in the field investigating the collusion and going door to 500 door-to-door interviews or sit-down interviews, or actually sitting there with a headset on wiretapping phones, any of the 50 phone taps? No. He was sitting in his office from 8 to 4. Firing Comey had no effect on the investigation whatsoever, and they knew that when they fired him. But the charge, and it's nothing more than a slanderous charge, is that he fired Comey for the expressed purpose of interfering with the investigation. And for those who don't know, I'm going to tell you two things about obstruction charges that I have verified. They are factual, and if you doubt me, I urge you to go fact check me. This is Americanist Radio. You're listening to The Real Americanist, and this show is about the pursuit of truth and fact in news. So I urge you to fact check me if you think I'm wrong. And if I am, you tell me, and I'll do a whole episode retracting and correcting it. Two things about obstruction. One, you don't actually have to obstruct an investigation or destroy evidence or tamper with a witness to be charged with obstruction. You don't. You just have to try. You have to endeavor to obstruct justice. So if that's the real charge, if that's the real push, is that he obstructed justice, then they can try to make that claim, and they have circumstantial evidence. Do you know why they can't go anywhere with it? Here's the second fun fact about obstruction charges, and it relates back to a Supreme Court ruling and then to a secondary ruling later on. Because no crime was found to be committed, and collusion's not a crime to begin with, just so you know. They make it out like it's treason and you could face death penalty for treason in America. And no, it's not. There's no law. There's no law saying that you cannot have the assistance of a foreign government in your campaign. If that was true, then Hillary Clinton definitely colluded with the Russians when she ran for president, and they donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to her. But I digress. Fun thing about obstruction is, even if you did try, if they find in the course of the investigation that you didn't really commit a crime and the investigation is an exercise in frugality or futility, guess what? They can't charge you with obstruction even if they want to. You have to actually be charged of a crime that they investigated in order to have obstructed that investigation. And that goes back, it's loosely related to an earlier Supreme Court ruling to this one. Sadly, I had like 25 pages of notes, and I left them on my desk 13 miles from where I'm broadcasting in the super secret safe house from. So I don't have my notes. I'm just going this. This is as I go. The exercise in futility of trying to get him for collusion or obstruction is that you can't do it because no crime was committed, and it goes to a Supreme Court ruling stating that and it's loosely related, and it affected a later ruling. In the case of wrongful arrest, an actual wrongful arrest, I mean that you get to court, unlike the SMOLLET case where he actually did it, you get to court and the judge says, "I'm so sorry, sir, they shouldn't have arrested you. This was a wrongful arrest. You should not be here. You're free to go." In the case of a wrongful arrest, did you know that you cannot be charged with resisting arrest if you did, in fact, resist arrest? If you're actually being wrongfully arrested and you punch the cop, guess what? You're not getting charged with resisting arrest. You're not even getting charged with assaulting a police officer. It's literally not going to happen. It's a Supreme Court ruling. And if you think I'm wrong, I urge you to fact check me. We're in pursuit of truth and fact in news. So that's why they can't go anywhere, this obstruction charge. But Mueller threw them a bone and said he came to no conclusion. So you're telling me that an attorney and 19 federal prosecutors and 40 FBI agents didn't know when Mueller put in his report that he could not come to a conclusion, that they all knew that because they found no evidence of collusion, they cannot charge him with obstruction? They all knew it. These are FBI agents. You have to have a bachelor's or a master's degree just to apply. Be serious. They knew, but they threw the media a bone because now the fly-by-night media can run with, well, he still obstructed justice. And the tub, Jerry Nadler, can still go on MSNBC like he regularly does, and Schiff can go on the news and say, well, this is not an exoneration. Mueller said himself that he could not find he couldn't come to a determinative ruling on obstruction. That was a bone to the media. And most people missed it. Most people missed it, and most people haven't researched the law, and they haven't looked into it, and they haven't read about it, which means they're going to believe that it's still hanging in the air. And that is how you have the Democrats and liberals and socialists in government colluding with the media. That's how. I guarantee you phone calls were made over it. But this is where we are now. Maddow, Rachel Madcow, won't get over this. When news of the report coming in, and then the letter being written to Lindsey Graham and Doug Collins and gun-grabbing Feinstein and the tub, Jerry Nadler, and she found out that it is, in fact, there's no collusion. She cried on air. First of all, it was beautiful. Oh my God, it was so good. I want a bunch of screenshots, and I think I'm gonna hang them like right back here above my flag, like a progression of her crying over there being no collusion. And then she lost her crap. She lost it, railing and on and on. Where does this come from? On what grounds are you concluding there is no crime here? And then my notes tell me to see page 1. I'm going to go with on the grounds of they tapped 50 people's phones, made 13 requests for information from foreign governments, interviewed 500 witnesses, pulled 230 records for phone and text, and issued 2,800 subpoenas. Those grounds. I don't think there has ever been as extensive an investigation into a sitting president. I don't know that any domestic investigation has ever, from our government, come to this height. Come to this 2,800 subpoenas, 500 witnesses. They phone tapped 200, or they pulled phone and text records from 230 phones. I don't think that there's ever been an investigation of this magnitude. I just don't think it's been done. Those grounds, Mad Cow, those are the grounds in which we can conclude that there is no crime here. Even if you concluded he did collude, even if you concluded he colluded, you still don't have a crime because collusion's not a crime. but I don't expect you to know that. And even if you did know that, and I don't believe Rachel Madcow or any of these other pundits on CNN and MSNBC and CBS News and all these other ones, I don't actually believe Rachel Maddow is intelligent enough to actually understand that. But even if she did, she would never admit it. She would never say it. She would run with it because she knows that the low information voters that are not very political people that get their news from CNN and actually think it's a trustworthy source, which is getting fewer and further between. That number is going down and down and down. There's most shows on Nickelodeon. I found this out a couple months ago. This was really cool. Most of the shows on Nickelodeon have higher ratings than the highest rated show on CNN. Think about this. Cat Dog and the Rugrats are more watched than the top show at CNN. The lowest rated show on Fox News beats the highest rated on CNN by a couple million. And I mean, there's no surprise there. I don't even really like Fox News anymore. I kind of stopped watching. But that's still awesome. But Rachel can't let go of it. Rachel Madcow can't let go of it. She just can't. She's crying on air, claiming that this is still a crime. On what grounds are you concluding there is no crime here? The grounds that it's been investigated for 2 years to a bill of my tax dollars of $36 million, Rachel. Those grounds. The most momentous and largest investigation into a sitting president that has ever taken place in the United States history. On those grounds, can we say that this didn't occur and there was no crime? And this all started because of Clinton. This all started when the DNC and Clinton colluded with the Russians to buy a fake dossier and get it in the hands of the director of a politically weaponized FBI under the Obama administration in order to fraud, scheme, and rig an election to make sure the Republican or the conservative had no chance and that Democrats not only remained in power but could pick and choose who took the throne next. This is the Democrat Party that we're facing today. It's full of socialists, full of power-grabbing, corrupt criminals, and it's not going away. The deep state is here to stay. This is when you hear people say the deep state, it's not some Illuminati conspiracy. No, this happened. You watched this play out over the last 2 years, and this is what it is. This is the deep state. This is what people talk about. They talk about the deep state is the backdoor phone calls. It is Obama and Clinton emailing each other on the illegal email, off record, unencrypted, hackable by foreign agents. It's said that either CIA or NSA, 2 agents of ours were killed because of information compromised on the Clinton server. I remember reading those reports. That's not 100% confirmed, but I remember reading that was the case, that there were two intelligence officers that were killed during the time period that her illegal server was being hacked. This is the deep state, ladies and gentlemen. This is it. This is the corruption. This is the crime. This is what happens. Oh my God. On my background in one of the news pages is a picture of AOC, the one with her in red lipstick, and it's making me nauseous. This is the deep state. This is the crimes that they talk about when they talk about the deep state. This is the level of corruption that we're facing in the Democrat Party. And it's not going anywhere because we have the spineless Republicans in Congress that won't do a thing about it. They won't break the rules. And not that I want them to. I don't want any of my elected officials. I don't want anyone who works for me breaking the law or breaking the rules. And make no mistake, they work for us. And they've gotten that because we've given them too much power. And that's why I am a libertarian. That's why I'm a constitutional libertarian. The 10th Amendment says that if the power over that particular subject or issue is not explicitly given to the federal government by the Constitution, then it is prohibited by the Constitution. And the responsibility of the state to regulate except when expressly prohibited from the state regulating it by the Constitution. The federal government should fit into a small office complex. The state governments have lost their power. The state representatives are a joke. And the representative in Congress, they're the Looney Tunes. They are